This is as delicious as a bowl of Martha Stewart's one-pot pasta. Yes, the lifestyle genius has just scored the ultimate revenge on a certain Meghan Markle, brutally exposing her, ironically, via the Sussex propaganda organ People magazine, as being a big fat gossip of breaking all of those private agreements that Prince Harry had made with King Charles.
I think it's actually kind of cool that Martha Stewart, who's now in her 80s, she just doesn't give an F, Glenn. She's like, I'm gonna cut this bitch and I don't care if you don't like it. She's clearly mocking her.
I don't think she respects the fact that Meghan Markle is a worthy competitor of everything Martha Stewart has done.
I had dinner with Meghan Markle the other night. Well, she was at the same table, so I can't say, she wasn't my guest. I was a guest. We were both guests at a dinner party in California. And she had just gotten back from the palace. And I think I didn't talk to her really more than to say a couple words, but I know she was talking about it.
Imagine savouring a dish as indulgent and comforting as Martha Stewart's legendary one-pot pasta, a recipe so simple yet so rich, it instantly satisfies every craving. Now, picture that same feeling but in the world of royal drama, where the stakes are far higher and the ingredients far spicier. This is the scene as the lifestyle and media powerhouse, Martha Stewart, appears to have delivered a stunning twist in the ongoing saga involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. It's a moment dripping with irony and intrigue, as Martha unintentionally, or perhaps intentionally, exposes Meghan as a relentless source of leaks, shattering the carefully crafted image promoted by the Sussex camp through their reliable mouthpiece, the so-called Sussex propaganda organ, People magazine.
If you're an actress, it's hard to then transition to a princess, and then from a princess into a homemaking guru on a television show. It doesn't sort of follow. So go from there.
The Sussexes betray the king. Now, following the Highgrove House summit, in which Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lily had afternoon tea with King Charles and Queen Camilla, with a strict order from the king for this meeting to be private, American cultural icon Martha Stewart has sensationally revealed that Meghan has been blabbing and boasting about the reunion with her father-in-law.
This revelation uncovers a betrayal of a very personal nature, a breach of trust involving secret agreements Prince Harry had carefully forged with King Charles. The Sussexes may have traded family loyalty for headlines, and now the fallout is public. It all began after a discreet and highly anticipated gathering at Highgrove House, where Harry, Meghan, their children Archie and Lilibet met King Charles and Queen Camilla for what was supposed to be a private, intimate afternoon tea. The king himself emphasized that this was to remain strictly confidential, an olive branch intended to mend familial bonds away from the prying eyes of the media. But the plot thickens. Martha Stewart, an emblem of American culture and privacy in her own right, has suddenly stepped into the picture with a bombshell claim. Meghan has been gleefully sharing, even bragging, about this sensitive reunion. This isn't just any family update, this is a breach of royal protocol, a personal conversation that was meant to be kept behind closed doors. It's the kind of breach that leaves a royal palace unsettled because it indicates a deep mistrust. The king, wary of past experiences, insisted on a witness to their meeting, a safeguard not for pomp or ceremony, but to ensure there was an accurate record.
Martha Stewart was at a posh dinner party in California and revealed to People magazine that Meghan had been boasting about her return to the United Kingdom and her face-to-face meeting with King Charles and Queen Camilla. Well,
statistics that suggest that an older generation feels more connected and invested in the British royal family. Also, it seems like if you are an A-lister or if you are, somebody that's truly making it in the world, want to be associated with the royal family.
Why such caution? Because Prince Charles learned the hard way that nothing said in private during interactions with Meghan stays private for long. This isn't speculation, it's a pattern etched in history. We've seen it time and again. Interviews with Oprah, indiscreet memoirs, countless leak-filled exchanges that always carry a Sussex signature. The palace's walls have long echoed with stories that mysteriously find their way into the public domain, always casting the Sussexes in a uniquely dramatic light. And now, it seems, history might be repeating itself once again. There's a phrase for how that felt, though memories can vary depending on who you ask. What's certain is that it left a mark. So, he took steps to protect himself and his family in the sanctuary of their own home, ensuring boundaries were set and respected. Fast forward just 4 weeks, and the scene shifts to a dinner table in California, where Martha Stewart unintentionally confirmed his instincts in the most revealing way. This is where the real discomfort lies, and if Martha has a capacity for being unsettled by anything at all,
let's not forget that Martha Stewart is buddies with King Charles. Yes, she is very friendly with King Charles. In fact, she was one of the few people, well, many people who saw him when he went to the United States for the state visit that he did there. So is this something that was plotted between King Charles and Meghan Markle, or is Meghan Markle simply just saying crap and lies, and this was a warning shot from Martha Stewart to the palace and say, hey, she's here making lies about this so-called meeting?
this is it. The most telling, unsettling moment in this saga isn't captured by anyone's headlines, and it's not found in any magazine interview. Instead, it's a subtle, quietly devastating fact. A father needed a chaperone just to have a simple cup of tea with his own son. That poignant detail alone sums up what 6 long years of this public drama have cost her. Not a mansion, not a grand title, but something far more fragile and irreplaceable: trust. Now, bring your attention back to that dinner, because there's a small but powerful detail in Martha's own recollection that has somehow slipped under everyone's radar. She barely even spoke to her. Yes, you heard that right. Martha herself said, "I didn't talk to her, really more than to say a couple of words." Pause for a moment and let that sink in. Just a couple of words, all evening. This is no minor detail, it's a window into a world of silent tensions and unspoken divides. Here we have one of the most famous women in recent history, a global icon known around the world by marriage as the Duchess of Sussex. She has spent years gracing magazine covers, secured a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal, and walked down the aisle in a wedding watched by nearly 2 billion people worldwide. And yet,
this is the sort of meeting that the king does with strangers. It's not the sort of meeting that he does with loved ones.
I don't think Meghan particularly wants to build any bridges with the UK or the royal family here. She's brought the children over because she wanted to support Harry and she wanted, like him, the kids to see their grandfather. But she's not as focused as he is on rehabilitating her image here. That matters to him. I don't think it matters to Meghan.
inside a room in California, standing face to face with Martha Stewart, it wasn't a heated argument or a noticeable snub or any kind of outright drama that unfolded. Instead, it was the cold, polite nothingness of barely exchanged words. No fireworks, no confrontation, just distant civility, a kind of quiet, almost invisible exclusion that speaks volumes in its silence. And in that moment, what does Meghan do? How does she handle this silent freeze from a woman who could easily have chosen to extend warmth? That's where the story truly deepens, peeling back layers of what it means to face isolation even in the midst of a high-profile social world. This isn't just a story about stardom or headlines. It's about the fragile human need for connection that often gets lost behind the glitter and glare. Imagine being in a room where no one really seems to notice you. The energy feels flat. People are engaged in their own conversations, their laughter light but distant. Nothing lands when you speak, your presence barely registered.
A source who hosted the event is offering a different account. I sat next to Meghan at the dinner party, and this account of what happened is simply untrue. This is bitch slapping Meghan Markle, and whoever this person is, it is Meghan Markle, because nobody is gonna dare contradict Martha Stewart, whoever was at that party.
One thing on the tea party, if it was going to be, the olive branch that everyone keeps on talking about, where was William? William was down the road playing polo and being photographed walking hand in hand with his beautiful wife, near the polo ground. Now, if this was a genuine, let's bury the hatchet, not in each other, but let's just bury the hatchet and we'll all get together and sort it out. William and Catherine would have been there. That would have been the ideal opportunity. The fact that they were not there just goes to show how large the gulf is between the rest of the family.
Now, picture Martha in exactly that setting, surrounded by strangers who hold no particular interest in her. What does she do? She brings up the king. Just like that, with a single move, she reaches for the one thread in her life that can still command attention, that can make heads turn and silence the room for a moment. It's not about the cooking show she launched or the homemade jam she's spent years perfecting. It's not any of the achievements she's painstakingly built over 6 long years of trying to carve out a space for herself. It's her father-in-law, the king himself. This, the sharpest critics observed this week, was the story beneath the surface, and for many, it landed like a punch in the gut. Martha wasn't accidentally letting something slip about the palace or dropping casual hints. No, she was consciously hunting for influence.
The only reason that Camilla was there is she wanted to make sure that nothing went wrong. She wanted to, the Queen said recollections may vary. Well, Camilla was there to make sure that no recollections may vary, that she was there to remember it all.
And she was there to protect the king because, obviously, as a let's be fair, Harry slaughtered Camilla in his book, but ultimately Camilla was there as the person to watch over the whole thing, to make sure that if the conversation started swaying towards how am I going to raise 18 million quid or whatever it is to pay, his father didn't turn around and say, oh, that'd be all right, darling, all right, my darling boy, as he calls him, because ultimately it's still a crown divide.
For recognition, she was at a high-profile dinner party in California, of all places a glamorous, exclusive gathering where connections mean everything, and her move was to name-drop King Charles to earn a scrap of acknowledgement in that room. Yet even with that bold play, the aftermath was telling. The only thing that stuck in Martha's memory wasn't anything about herself, no anecdotes, no personal charm, no clever conversation. It was the palace, the grandeur, the institution, the very thing she tried to escape. There's a poignant loneliness in that realization, a sense of being tethered to a world she claimed she'd left behind forever. I almost would have felt sympathy if Martha hadn't spent 6 years telling us she walked away exactly because she wanted to break free from the need for that kind of validation, that circle of royal intrigue and titled influence. But once you glimpse that moment, the desperate reach for a title to bring her back into focus, you start noticing similar patterns everywhere. It's a thread running through everything. And the timing adds another layer to the story. This dinner happened the same week as her 45th birthday, a milestone that should have been about celebration and personal joy.
They wouldn't let any photographs be taken, you see. Meghan and Harry desperately wanted of the king with the little children, and that would have boosted them up, and it would have cost her, they could sell it for a lot of money. But they weren't having that, and they didn't want Camilla in. But Camilla was there, and she was listening and making sure that nothing happened that she wasn't okay with and the king would be okay with. He's got better things to do than to analyse something that they say.
You might remember that birthday because Martha herself shared the photos, the carefully curated moments that tell a story of gratitude and warmth. She thanked everyone for their messages. She filmed the whole experience, presenting an image of a woman embraced by love and friendship. But behind those public smiles and posts, there was perhaps something more complicated, simmering beneath the surface, a subtle echo of the same invisible loneliness that unfolded at that dinner party. It's the story of someone caught between worlds, reaching out for belonging, and yet still feeling unmoored, even on a day meant to mark joy and accomplishment. Imagine a scene where she's alone, dancing freely in her own kitchen, clutching a handful of colourful balloons, a private celebration that felt worlds away from the public eye. Yet, when guests finally arrived to support her, it wasn't the usual high-profile crowd that you'd expect. No flashing cameras capturing the likes of famous Kardashians, no superstar tennis champion Serena Williams, not even the glamorous Amal Clooney. Instead, it was just two friends, simple, unassuming people.
And the reality is there's been 3 meetings with the king. And I know for a fact on the first meeting, because I wrote about it, is that when Harry came down, they made up an appointment so that the king could be interrupted. So that someone came in and said, "Oh, you've got your procedure, sir." He never had a procedure. He just wanted to get off to Sandringham. So the first one wasn't exactly close. The second, they exchanged a few gifts. And it was only about 35, 40 minutes again. And this meeting was probably about an hour. So is this great reconciliation? I don't think so. But at the same time, the king is in an invidious position. Any guy that's of a certain age, who's living on the other side of the world, if you can imagine it, and wants to bring him to see his grandchildren, you're just not going to say no. Making it more official, that's the problem. But if Meghan was being sensible about this, would she have raised all this? As Charlie just said, we know that they met at the Highgrove, and we know that was part of the deal, was that they say nothing. She won't be able to keep her mouth shut. It'll come out. People magazine, I look forward to reading it.
One of them happened to be married to a studio executive who owed the Sussexes a favour, a debt accrued only because they had shown up at his film premiere. On the other side of this tale, Lady Colin Campbell, never one to hold back, described Meghan with ruthless honesty. She painted her as a relentless social climber, a lion huntress who had relentlessly chased after every possible scalp in her way. Lady Colin didn't pull any punches. Meghan even managed to draw many of those same people to her wedding, cleverly weaving them into her world, only to have them turn their backs on her later. And why did that happen? Lady Colin's blunt verdict: everyone eventually left her. Everyone abandoned her. The proof, as she framed it, is publicly visible. Take the incident at the Bob Marley film premiere, a moment one might think would be warm and welcoming.
I don't think they want to muddy themselves with the tarnished image of Meghan and Harry. I mean, they're the people that are desperate to make a comeback, Meghan and Harry. Everybody else seems to be doing quite well. I mean, you only have to look at the Waleses on A form. They've been really up there. And I think that even, with respect to the king, there's a lot of people upset that he's giving Harry too much traction. I think that, his trip to America, where he was brilliant, I think, in his speeches and in the liaison and his reaction with Trump. I think a lot of people have got respect for him too. So yeah, I mean, it's there. The reality is the A-listers know what side their bread's buttered.
Instead, Bob Marley's widow, Rita Marley, a woman with nothing left to prove to anyone, turned her back on Meghan in a gesture that was impossible to ignore. According to Lady Colin's account, even the Jamaican Prime Minister and his wife were reluctant to engage with the Sussexes, barely managing to speak with them, only under considerable pressure. Then there's Phil Dampier, a seasoned observer who has been watching this complex story unfold from the very beginning. Dampier says the couple has become widely dismissed within the industry, branded harshly by at least one major executive, not tabloids, but someone inside the very heart of the entertainment business, calling them a pair of grifters. But here's the moment that reveals everything. The people working for Meghan, her own staff, those employed by her company and charged with promoting her branded products like jams and candles, were quietly asked to send. Let's pause here and think about what's really going on beneath the surface, because this isn't just about a birthday message or a fleeting social media post. This is something much deeper, more telling, and frankly,
you can just tell, can't you? There is no connection between her and those kids. She can't stand those kids. She's giving them odd looks. She's going through the motions. I mean, she's not someone, we've seen this a lot over the years, she's not someone that connects. But to try and sell the idea of heart and being a good person and love and using children to do that, I just don't think this is the right strategy to sell this movie, because all anyone's saying says is like, Meghan, if you had a heart, you'd speak to your dad. If you had a heart, you wouldn't have done that to Prince Philip. If you had a heart, you wouldn't have done that to Elizabeth II. Do you know what I mean? The strategy is whack.
It should raise some eyebrows. 6 years ago, this woman stepped into the spotlight and made a bold declaration. She said she was leaving that royal world behind, not because of the crown or the legacy, but because she wanted to be valued purely for who she is as a person, not a title, not the family name, just herself. That was the whole message. That was the promise we were supposed to believe when we were told to accept the fallout, the disruption, the consequences of her departure. So now, fast forward to today. What has she really gained? The reality is far from the glamorous escape she made it out to be. The very A-list celebrities you'd expect to show up for a milestone birthday, they're nowhere to be found.
Right. And it's almost like Meghan has trails of bad behavior that have, and now she's trying to show something that we just don't buy, because we see the trail of dead bodies that follow her. We see all the bad behavior. And so when she shows up to speak and to try to sell something, we don't believe it because we already know the history. We know how Meghan shows up. We've been seeing it and talking about it for years. Meghan just can't win. There's no way for her to win.
But I also think that she has been blabbing about it. To this day, I don't understand why Charles to make this public. Unless, of course, he wanted to help them out and give them gravitas, because now Meghan Markle, of course, she's going to go around and say, hey, I was with the king. I just came back from the palace, to remind everybody that she's royal, that she can see the king whenever she wants to, that she's on her way back to the United Kingdom.
Her own team, her employees, have to be the ones guilted or nudged into acknowledging her special day. Even a film producer's wife seems to post a greeting out of obligation rather than genuine warmth or enthusiasm. And at a dinner party full of people who could hardly care less about her, her last grasp at significance turns out to be the very family name she insisted she was leaving behind. Instead of freedom from it, it's clear she hasn't really broken free, she's simply tethered herself to it in a different way. She didn't escape the institution as she claimed. Over the last 6 years, she's spent a considerable amount of time proving, whether intentionally or not, that without that royal connection, she struggles to find footing on her own. Now, let's get even more specific. Go back, if you will, and take another slow, careful read of Martha Stewart's recent interview. Pay close attention to every time she mentions Meghan.
Rob Shooter also reporting in another exclusive that Meghan did actually want a big birthday for her 45th, but no one wanted to be part of it. Sources telling him that the original plan was an over-the-top party worthy of the lavish New York baby shower and fairy tale royal wedding that once defined her life. Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, Serena Williams, Amal Clooney. Meghan loves a big party, one source tells Naughty But Nice. She envisaged another iconic celebrity gathering where everyone who's anyone would be there. It was supposed to remind the world she was still Hollywood, but reality intervened. It quickly became obvious the guest list wasn't coming together. Another insider says people were busy, relationships had changed, and the excitement around Meghan just isn't what it once was.
But here's the catch. Watch how Martha never, not even once, refers to her as the Duchess or Duchess of Sussex. No subtle hints, no formal titles, no nods to royal status. It happens not once, not twice, but consistently. The only name Martha uses, Meghan Markle. Plain, simple, and without royal reference. This omission is no coincidence. Martha Stewart is a master of precision in her words. Nothing slips by unnoticed or unplanned when she speaks or writes. So why this choice? What does it say when someone as prominent as Martha deliberately avoids giving Meghan that royal title in such a public way? It sends a clear message about how Meghan is seen by some in the industry.
And of course it did, P. Dinah, because you just look at the day. 2 Instagram posts from her, 2 Instagram posts loosely, Kelly J. Zedge-Finn and Tracy Robbins. Really, they are her ultimate loyalists who don't really have anything to lose.
It is ungracious, and whether it's the Kardashians, the Clooneys, Gwyneth Paltrow, or now Martha Stewart, seems to always fall out with celebrities.
Oh yes, because she's a very unpleasant person. That's simple. People have moved back, and that's why she's having a party on her own in the kitchen with some balloons and 2 dogs.
It reveals the complex dance between identity, perception, and the weight a title carries or doesn't carry outside that royal bubble. What exactly does that title mean beyond the palace walls? What power or relevance does it hold here? The answer might surprise you because, as Martha's wording suggests, it's become far less about royalty and more about something else entirely. What Meghan is doing right now isn't just a symbolic gesture or some sentimental act. It's the foundation holding up an entire empire. Think about it. The success of the Grand Sussex brand hinges entirely on the air of royal connection she carries. It's that association with the monarchy that turns something as simple as a jar of jam into a luxury item priced at $40 instead of $8. That royal aura is the real currency here. Meghan talks about pressing on, pushing a little further, but to me it feels like she's slowly sliding down a slippery slope. She's navigating a delicate balancing act, maintaining this fragile relevance while the pressures mount. Let's be real, she's incredibly savvy when it comes to these kinds of high-stakes maneuvers. That's precisely how she's managed to stay in the public eye and keep her brand alive. However, it's not because of any particular skill set or talent. Frankly, her individual skills don't seem to be the driving force behind her success. Sure,
Martha Stewart said Meghan Markle was gossiping, we're going to listen to her. And then Meghan Markle clapped back, no, I wasn't. You don't pick a fight with somebody who went to jail, who's done time in prison, and who's besties with Snoop Dogg. And not only that, who the Kardashians absolutely adored. Meghan Markle doesn't even get a greeting from anybody on her loneliest of birthdays.
They have nothing to lose. It's not going to be any better. This is as good as it's going to get. If this is your wake-up call, you're screwed up. That's what it says to me. You're done, okay? So what can she do now but try to sell jam and create some nonsense with dipping your jam in some... I mean, girl, you are desperate.
she has Harry, whose name and fortune open doors for her, but Meghan on her own? That's a different story. She's got her looks, which have faded a bit under intense scrutiny, but those aren't enough to keep the momentum rolling indefinitely. Now, she's faced with the challenge of traveling to England, and there's some real tension beneath the surface. After meeting with dignitaries abroad, including the Kenyan Queen, Meghan came out visibly upset, speaking about how rude they were to her and Harry. That comment struck a nerve. It felt not just unnecessary, but almost disrespectful to the very communities she's engaging with. It's ironic, because in many ways, her estrangement from the core royal circle stems from choices she made herself. Yet, the situation demands diplomacy, even when the feelings involved are fraught. Harry's financial standing has taken a hit, which adds another layer of urgency. Now, more than ever, Meghan needs to smooth things over with people she might not always get along with, all in an effort to rebuild bridges, secure alliances, and perhaps...
Did you see her going round on her birthday yesterday?
Yeah.
I mean, that was completely ludicrous. It was.
Well, she seems to have thrown herself a birthday party.
By herself, on her own, plus her two dogs. But what really got me, which was that she had a little plastic tiara on her head, which I thought was actually being rude for the king and the queen. You don't do that. It was a silly little thing.
No, you're mocking royal iconography with that.
Absolutely. And I think that she is, she did also on her T-shirt have, it's giving Mrs. Now, what do you think of that? Or shall I tell you what I think first?
Oh, I want your interpretation.
Mrs. So she's going to be a Mrs. And she's giving because she knows that her husband loves her, that she's not going to dump. She's going to go a little bit longer. But I think she's just wearing it on a sort of downhill.
Regain some financial footing. This isn't just about pride, it's about strategy, survival, and the high-stakes game of maintaining relevance and influence under the harsh spotlight of public life. She just keeps pushing, doesn't she? I mean, look, she's 85 years old. So when Meghan makes those remarks about her, it's not just a little jab. It's something that would absolutely ignite her fiery spirit. This woman guards her age like a secret treasure. She doesn't want the world to peg her by the number of years she's lived, and honestly, you can't blame her for that. But here's the kicker. She wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy toward Meghan either. When they first met, her words hit like a cold splash of reality. I hope you know what you're doing. Not exactly the warmest welcome, right? And it didn't stop there. She once delivered a stinging comment wrapped in sarcasm, something along the lines of, "Oh, I've heard it's really tough for an actress to suddenly become a princess, and then pivot again to become some kind of homemaking guru on TV. Ouch." You can already tell that Meghan wouldn't sit quietly and take that to heart, because honestly, Meghan's the kind of person who seems to juggle every role flawlessly, no matter the challenge.
Martha Stewart has misheard this. This is a classic sort of Sussex propaganda, isn't it? That It's always a source, and we know it's come directly from the Duchess.
Of course. I mean, she's very, very good at these sort of things, isn't she? That's why she's sort of stayed alive, because it's not her skills, not at all. And none of her skills are any good whatsoever. But she's got Harry with his name and his, a lot of money, but she's not herself. She's quite attractive, but not so much now.
When they take away the title from Harry and she's told that she can't use that title anymore, this woman is going to have a complete heart attack. Now she has wrapped her identity around a royal title that she hates from a colonialist family. So what is Meghan going to do now? A fight with Martha Stewart? Why does she have to clap back? Or is this something?
What's almost hilarious is how these two have been trading subtle but sharp barbs back and forth over the last couple of years. Strike one, but it gets more layered. Fast forward just a bit, and we have Martha seemingly more measured this time, fielding questions about Meghan. Her answer starts off gentle, almost diplomatic, but then you catch the real edge beneath it all. She says, "I don't really know her that well. I just hope she knows what she's talking about." That throwaway line sounds innocent, but anyone paying attention can hear the doubt dripping through.
And so she also has to go to England, furious. I mean, she was very rude when she came out of having met the King and Queen. And she said, they were very rude to us, as if we're not part of anything. They have not been part of anything by their own wishes. I thought that was actually extremely rude and extremely unnecessary. She's got to do it, but Harry's lost a lot of money, so you've got to try and get these people who you don't like kind and to give you some money and to, what will help you keep going.
She still wants to portray herself as royal adjacent, okay? She left the royal family, but she still wants to call herself the Duchess of Sussex to sell her products, even though I think she spent like 5 hours in Sussex in total in her whole life. And she still wants to portray herself as close to King Charles and Camilla. That is just not the case. Now, they're going back with their tails between their legs because they had this huge judgment from the lawsuit and they're probably broke as a joke. Okay, they're 1 minute away from bankruptcy.
And just when you think she might soften, she pivots to praising Gwyneth Paltrow with unmistakable enthusiasm. Now, Gwyneth. She beams. She's got an Oscar. She's incredibly successful and holds real influence. Compare that to Meghan? Nope, not even a comparison. Meghan doesn't get a mention. She just gets a hopeful wish thrown her way. Strike two, right there. And then there's the culinary showdown. Meghan once showcased a one-pan pasta recipe on her Netflix series, acting like it was her own inspired creation, some magical dish dreamed up in a peaceful Montecito garden on a lazy afternoon. The truth? That technique actually traces back to well-known, established chefs far before Meghan's take. It's as if claiming the recipe was hers was another subtle way to stake a claim or try to outshine. This little clash over kitchen credits only adds another layer to their ongoing rivalry, proving that even something as simple as a pasta dish can stir the pot in the most unexpected ways.
She is 85, so Meghan saying that would absolutely make her furious. She doesn't want anybody to recognise her age, and quite right too. But she was also quite cynical with Meghan. I mean, when she first met her, she said that I hope you know what you're doing, which was not terribly nice. And this one was, she said, assuming she's heard, if you're an actress, it's very hard to trans over to a princess and then to become a homemaking guru at any TV show. So Meghan wouldn't like that because Meghan can do anything, whatever it is, she's top of the bomb. Funny that they both have been absolutely spiking at each other.
Now, we all know what Martha Stewart is saying. We all know what Martha Stewart is doing. Martha is a royal favourite, by the way. She met up with King Charles during his recent visit to New York, and she does remain utterly seething about the fact that Meghan stole her one-pot pasta recipe, so much so that on her website, she updated the description to say, "But as the Royal News Network pointed out, you can only keep confidence as if you don't tell other people."
The tension between them is far from over, and you can bet more surprises are on the horizon. Long before Meghan ever stepped in front of a camera to cook, the recipe she showcased wasn't original. It had actually appeared years earlier, right in Martha Stewart's own kitchen, published in Martha Stewart's magazine. Yet, when Meghan used it, no acknowledgement, no hint of credit was given to Martha. Not a whisper. What's more surprising is Martha's response, or rather her calm lack of one. There was no call to lawyers, no public statement blasting the oversight. Instead, she quietly heads to her website and tweaks the description to subtly claim she's the original and the best, while strategically avoiding naming anyone. It was a silent but unmistakable message, one that said, "I don't have to explain myself. Everyone already knows the truth."
But don't you think, I think it's actually kind of cool that Martha Stewart, who's now in her 80s, she just doesn't give an F, Glenn. She's like, I'm going to cut this bitch and I don't care if you don't like it. She's clearly mocking her. She got back from the palace and she was talking about it. Oh, back from the palace. And how difficult it is to try to jump from these different roles right into making yourself a homemaking guru. And was telegraphing to us all, it ain't as easy as it looks. And she's failing. Like, that's really what she was saying.
Yeah, I've seen comments from her similar, not maybe as harsh, about Meghan Markle, because I don't think she respects the fact that Meghan Markle is a worthy competitor of everything Martha Stewart has done.
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. I mean, she eviscerated her. It's very difficult to make a transition from D-grade actress to A-grade princess, and then to make it, and she's managed to do it. And I thought that Martha Stewart got the point across very elegantly, that Meghan has failed at everything.
This, friends, was strike 3. The week closed with a crescendo of reactions from those who had been paying attention, those who grasped exactly what had unfolded under the surface. Megyn Kelly wasn't shy about calling it as she saw it. Shots fired, no sugarcoating, just the raw truth. Glenn Greenwald described Martha's approach as passive-aggressive criticism, noting that Martha's reputation for bluntness meant she wasn't even trying to pretend Meghan posed a serious challenge to the pair's empire Martha had meticulously built. It was like watching a queen acknowledge a mere pawn, not with anger, but with quiet superiority. Then came Tom Seitz, who captured the entire drama with one unforgettable line that instantly went viral. Martha Stewart was showing off her knife skills, while Meghan's acting like the Onion. Picture that Martha...
As you said, she's she went to prison and she came out and built this whole second career, seemed to do very well in it. Obviously built a gigantic business too. Yeah, she is not somebody to play around with, and that passive-aggressive criticism of Meghan Markle there was so enjoyable.
I wonder if she might be a listener to this show or to the Nerve, or to the Nerve. We've got to find it out. We need to know more.
I was just going to say, I think it's more of a case of Martha Stewart, this well-known, world-renowned domestic goddess, was just setting out a stall and saying, chummy, if you think you're going to try and take my crown, my domestic crown away, you're not. You're an actress, now you want to be a domestic goddess. I think it was a little bit of that sort of going on.
Shade is what you're saying. You felt the shade.
Cool, precise, effortlessly demonstrating mastery, while Meghan stumbles around, trying to make a splash but lacking the core substance. 3 strikes, 0 drama, and Martha never raised her voice once. It was a masterclass in calm confidence. This wasn't just some casual critique or simple opinion, it was a fact with undeniable weight behind it. If you treat it like a casual expression, it might seem like just another viewpoint, but stack it up with the numbers, and it becomes a verdict. Meghan's show didn't hold up in the court of public opinion either. The first season debuted with a tepid 38% from critics. By the second season, that rating plummeted to a disappointing 20%. And as the holidays approached, the downward spiral only became more pronounced, signaling the end of the road for Meghan's culinary ambitions.
Excuse me, doesn't Meghan have as ever raspberry spread, strawberry spread, orange marmalade, bon maman, which is absolutely delicious, cheaper, and actually proper jam, and reserves, where allegedly she's executive producer, which means she is putting in money. Not only that, she also, as an executive producer, you have decision-making power. Why is she going on? This is directly her competition, Bon Maman, because Bon Maman is actually paying. This company is paying to be featured in this promo, because Meghan Markle's company, as ever, does not have any money left. She can't afford to pay for that. She is allegedly executive producer. How? I wouldn't even stand there, and she's standing there smiling unless Meghan Markle is getting a cut of whatever revenue from competition, showcasing their jam, their spread, their marmalade, their reserve.
When Time's special managed 14 Times Series 2 finally premiered, expectations were sky high. But instead of soaring, it stumbled out of the gate, failing to even crack Netflix's coveted top 10 during its launch week. To put that into perspective, the show that did hit number 10 that week pulled in a staggering 2.1 million views. Special managed 14 Times couldn't come close. No surprise then that talks of a Series 3 vanished almost instantly, completely off the table. The once hyped $100 million Netflix deal, initially pitched as the grand validation of the entire project, shrank down to what insiders call a first look deal. Now, in industry speak, that's a polite way of saying, we'll listen to your pitches, maybe. It's far from the blockbuster partnership everyone imagined. The early hype wasn't entirely unfounded. The initial offerings sold out in just 45 minutes, a number that sounds impressive on the surface. But when you dig deeper, you realize there was barely anything to sell in the first place. And then the trouble began. Promises of an apricot spread fell flat when the company had to refund customers due to overselling. Candles arrived missing essential components, not lighting up the experience as expected. Even the gourmet touches like flower dustings and dried petals sprinkled over pricey dishes ended up feeling more like gimmicks than genuine luxury. Critics were brutal.
But this Cookie Queen's campaign is going to fail because unfortunately Meghan Markle is using it to try and sell her jam. And the stories are completely unbelievable. Of course, GB News, which is suckered via its new Omid Scobie best pal Cameron Walker. Meghan Markle leaves interviewer stunned with bizarre jam admission. But as Queer Lips of Truth put it, that's because the bitch is lying. No reasonable human being takes Girl Scouts cookies and dips them. Meghan Markle is only trying to sell jam. Everything about her is contrived.
But Meghan Markle has shown that she's a terrible at. I just shown you that she has no power or decision, making power over the Cookies Queen documentary, because if she had any decision power, she would have said, hey, use my jam, use my spread, use my marmalade. Why wouldn't she do that? Which means that she's only lending a royal title and name. I don't even think she's getting revenue, because if she's not putting any money, it really does not make any sense to allow a competitor to promote on a show or movie documentary that you, as a founder of Us Ever, who also has these kinds of products.
Montecito Marie Antoinette. The Times Telegraph Times called it an ego trip in a sun hat. The Times doubled down, describing the second series as a show grasping for purpose, fronted by a woman clearly chasing a payday. And when Times ladies see Map Times compressed the whole decline into one sharp critique, it was almost poetic. From D-grade actress to A-grade princess, and now all the way back down to Z-grade. The narrative had flipped. Once hailed as a trailblazer, the woman who built an entire category from the ground up, who invented this unique corner of entertainment, was now facing the harsh reality of a spectacular flop. She had lost it all before, vanished from the scene, only to claw her way back with nothing but her own name to carry her forward. But this time, the comeback story looked more fragile than ever. As she gazed down that winding road she once considered, she publicly declared one simple truth: it just doesn't lead where anyone expected. And she's absolutely right. The path she's on no longer fits the narrative or the role many imagined for her. This leaves us with the real question hanging in the air. What's Meghan's next move? What does the future hold for someone who has stepped so far away from tradition and yet still carries a name that carries weight? Interestingly, this question isn't just swirling in viewers' minds, it's already been thoughtfully addressed by someone who knows this story better than most. Tom Sykes, a seasoned royal correspondent, put it down in print this very week. He painted a picture of a single, clear option that seems to make the most sense amid all the noise. According to Sykes, there's an alternative path Meghan could embrace, one that might just quiet the storm and rewrite her story for good. He suggests she do something truly radical. Vanish. Step away from the spotlight completely. Focus on raising her children, which she has often said is her deepest source of happiness and fulfillment. Take a break from the relentless social media scrutiny, not for a few months, but for several years, maybe 2, 3, or even 5. Then, when the world has had time to breathe, return at 50 with a fresh voice, grounded in genuine reflection and honesty. Share an authentic narrative about what went wrong, what was learned, and who she's become along the way. This, he argues, would earn her a genuine hearing and perhaps an opportunity for a true second act. It's a strategy born from patience and perseverance, one that has precedent. History has shown that reinvention after hardship is possible, even strikingly so. Tom points to Martha, who managed to rebuild from a prison camp in West Virginia, using the experience not to hold her back, but to fuel a remarkable comeback. Then, with a touch of realism that's neither harsh nor unfair, Tom highlights the biggest challenge Meghan faces. The world is watching, yes, but it's also protective of certain boundaries. Simply borrowing a royal name or title isn't enough anymore. It has to come with substance, vision, and value. And if she's not truly investing in her ventures, whether that's through creativity, leadership, or genuine passion, it's hard to see why platforms or opportunities would open their doors wide. In essence, the advice from someone who follows this family's every step is both a challenge and an invitation. The next chapter isn't written yet, but how Meghan chooses to approach it could redefine everything. Will she embrace the quiet strength of stepping back, rebuilding, and then returning with something real to say? Only time will tell. As we close this final chapter, remember, every story has turning points, moments that reset the course and invite us to imagine new possibilities. Meghan's journey is far from over, and the road ahead could be the most compelling part yet. If this story inspired you or made you think, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more in-depth stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think Meghan's next move should be? Let's start a conversation because every perspective matters. Thanks for watching.